It's time for a reality check.
We're here to deconstruct health and fitness trends and provide tangible advice so you can become 1% better with each choice starting today. Welcome back to this episode of Reality Check. We are your hosts, Jess and Jill, and today we're going to talk supplements. So I feel like often when anyone has any type of concern, when they come to us as coaches, if it's cortisol or digestion or what probiotic do you recommend, or do you take greens powders? I get a lot of questions like that. And while supplements are such a minute component of like a healthy lifestyle overall in the way that we utilize them in coaching, there are definitely ones that I think are great for general population that everyone can take from a health perspective. And there are some that aren't very necessary. So Jess and I thought it would be cool to kind of talk about our evolution with supplements, because Lord knows I used to just throw insane amounts of money at supplements back in the day when I thought they were like the end all be all. And I very much was the person who walked through GNC and was a sucker for the labels and the bottles and the, fat burning sensations that came out. And then obviously I learned my lesson and learned how much money I wasted, but that's okay. It's all a learning curve. But we wanted to talk about, what we used to take and then what we take now. Obviously we've both gone through some more like intense protocols in terms of like some form of detox, both for different reasons. But, there were supplements that we implement for short period of time. There are things that we implement for like sickness and kids and then just normal day-to-day things. So we want to talk about what we used to take, what's overrated, what brands that we love and recommend, and then kind of like what our maintenance stacks look like, overall. So we'll start first with kind of what we used to take. I used to just, I look back and nothing that I took was like helpful for health at all. It was all strictly like physique focused, which I think a lot of people do. And then like this greens powder, I won't say the brand's name, but they do a really great job of marketing and it's very popular right now. I'm not personally a huge fan of greens powder. I think people can use it, but like if you're using it, it's a crutch for real food. Like eat a vegetable, eat some broccoli, So that's one of the ones that I definitely used to take and swear by. And there are women that will come to me and say, I take greens powder, like a new client, I take a greens powder and it helps so much with my bloat. Is that okay to take? And I'm like, well, sure, it's not bad to take, but the reason it's helping with your bloat is probably because you don't consume enough, fiber in your day-to-day diet. And like those are things we can work on. And usually what happens is they end up kind of weaning themselves off because they realize they don't need it anymore. I don't know.
And it's like an expensive thing. Yeah. I still do on and off. And it's not like it's a necessity. It's like, oh, there's a sale for Organifi or for AG1 or whatever. So I've tried them to try them. But if I take them, it's not like a regular thing because I feel like, again, it's a kind of waste of money based on how I eat with my micronutrients. Right. But if like, I'll call this past weekend a bender. We've had like 2 family events in a row where I'm just eating junk and not in my normal routine or whatever. I might have a scoop of something like that on a morning like that, where I'm like, we're going to our family reunion, we're having a barbecue the night before. Like last weekend, my cousin got married and it was just like, we're eating all around the clock. Like I might add it in a weekend like that.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
But yeah, it's not a regular for me. I kind of went through, you said you were like a GNC junkie. I, at the time, was doing bodybuilding.com workouts, and I was just like, anything that they sold me, I would buy because they had it in stacks that they would sell. And it was like the fat burning stack, and it would have like whey protein.
Yeah.
Which is still effective. It would have like a pre-workout. It would have CLAs, BCAAs. And it's like, okay, now I know the ineffectiveness of most of that stuff. Like I still take protein supplement to supplement mostly meat and real foods, protein. So I'll still take that every now and then. But I'm not taking all of that stuff. And I'm most definitely not taking anything anymore that claims to be a fat burner. So like when I was the summer leading up to me competing for Miss Delaware, my diet was very healthy in terms of micronutrients. I was eating very little, but I took fat burner pills for probably like 2 weeks leading up to it. And it was like jittery, heart palpitation central. Like it was absolutely not healthy, absolutely not sustainable. And I'm certain that that plus pre-workouts over the course of time caused my body to then crash in my mid 20s and have like an intolerance to caffeine now because of all that stuff. It's absolutely, I mean, you could snort Coke and get the same effects. It's like, do you want to speed your heart rate up to make you burn more calories all the time, or do you actually want to be healthy?
Right.
So that's kind of how I approach pre-workout drinks now too. Like I don't use them anymore. I still drink caffeine, and I'll drink like green tea or coffee or whatever. But all the other additives, and there are some pre-workouts out there that are just caffeine and maybe B vitamins, but a lot of them have a lot of processed junk in it that our bodies really do not need. And I was taking all of that for a few years, probably from when I was like 18 to 21.
I think that's such a good, I didn't even really think about like pre-workout. I took the amount of pre-workout I took back in the day is disgusting. I was taking like, what is it, like C4, and I'm trying to think of the other like super high caffeinated one. I was like religious. I thought it was just like you could not work out without pre-workout. And honestly, because I took so much, that's how I felt. But I mean, I was taking like 400 plus milligrams in of caffeine with like the, I wanted the tingles. I wanted all of that stuff from the pre-workout. And I thought I needed that to have an effective workout. And I still, to this day, that is still a very commonly asked question in my DMs is, what pre-workout do you use? And I'm like, water, food.
And a lot of the effects that you get, so like the tingly feeling, the beta alanine, they just add that so that you feel like it's doing something. It's not actually an effective ingredient. The effective ingredients are the vasodilators, which if you drink a lot of water, you can get the benefits of that, and the caffeine for energy. And if you take caffeine every single day, you adapt to it just like any other drug, and it's going to stop working. So like I recommend, if you guys want to use, like, first of all, just drink a lot of water or drink an electrolyte drink or add salt to your water. If you want the vasodilation effects of feeling like a pump. And if you need more energy, use it sparingly. Use it on the days that you're actually dragging and you can't get another lift in that week. Don't use it every single day.
Yeah. And that's a good point. I actually do drink my Element drinks. I like swear by them. I drink one every day. But I will often drink them pre-workout too. I usually won't, like in the afternoon, because I like to drink them in the morning. So if I'm, working out in the morning, I'll have it before. But that's a good point about the adaptation with caffeine too, because I took it just like, it was almost habitual. Like I have to put something in my water before I go to the gym sort of thing. And I didn't feel anything. It was so useless, but
it's fun to have the habit too. Like I'll add like, what have I been buying? Oh, I bought like an electrolyte packet thing at Aldi because they were just reasonable and I like the flavor of grape. I've been having that as like my routine now before workouts, and it's just like magnesium and sodium and stuff, and it tastes like grape Pedialyte. But same thing. It's like, okay, there's nothing wrong with having a routine that makes you feel hyped before the gym. Just like cut back on the chemicals and all the stuff that your body adapts to in an unhealthy way.
Well, and also be mindful of your caffeine intake if you're like
period
after work kind of thing. So that's a point too. But so pre-workout, I definitely overutilized. And you mentioned something in terms of like your pageant days. So I used to take CLA because it would make me get to the bathroom. And I think there are supplements that help with digestion, motility, all of those things, 100%. We'll talk about that. But I did not take CLA for that. I took it to go to the bathroom because I thought if I go to the bathroom more, then I will lose more weight. Like it was a very unhealthy reason that I took it. I didn't take it for like actual health benefits, but
I didn't feel any different when I took it. I took that also for years. I didn't feel any different, but I took CLA and I took some branched chain amino acid supplements just because, again, bodybuilding.com and GNC said, oh, these will aid in muscle building and fat loss. So I just took them because of the marketing. I don't think I felt any different from either of those things. It was just a waste of money, in my opinion.
So actually, it's funny you mentioned that. Bodybuilding.com amino acids. I took Optimum Nutrition amino acids. They come in the big jars. They still sell them to this day at Costco, and they have caffeine in them, but it's a pretty small amount per scoop. But I wanted the flavor in my water. So I was like, okay, realistically, I can have this all day and keep my caffeine intake under, my goal was like 500, right? Like it was so dumb. So I would drink it all day. I would drink, however many blender bottles a day of water because I was like, bro mentality, got to drink a gallon every day. And I was putting this stuff in my water all day. And looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how much money I gave Optimum Nutrition on these.
And no wonder now you have like thyroid issues and like it's like your body at some point will crash from this stuff. Same with, I never really got into these as much, but like more recently, the Alani new drinks, they taste really good. They have cute marketing, or the Celsius drinks. They sell them in cases at Costco. Like I've tried all of these things, but again, those are just like super doses of caffeine that none of us need as a regular thing in our diet. So the marketing kills me because on the cans of the Celsius drinks, it says like speeds up metabolism, boosts energy, blah, blah. And it's like, no, it doesn't speed up your metabolism. Your metabolism is eventually going to crash, but it just speeds up your heart rate in this temporary short-term moment. So, which you could get from any upper drug, honestly, which you don't need. You don't need in our system. It's not good for us.
And that's the stuff I would fall for walking through GNC. I'm like, oh, boosts metabolism, increases energy, turns fat into energy. I'm like,
that's cool. BS. That's a marketing team who came up with that, who knows nothing about how the body adapts. So yeah, those were the ones I would say I took in the past.
Fat burners. I took fat burners. I don't know if you ever did that.
I only did for like 1 or 2 weeks right before Miss Delaware, and I had heart palpitations so much that I stopped because I was like, this cannot be good. And I think it worked. Like, I actually think it worked, but it also, I felt like I was dehydrated. But I could physically feel my heart rate speeding up where I was like, this is not okay.
And you're hot.
I never took it again. Yeah, it was weird. It was not okay. And it was really like, I've never done like hard drugs, but it was like what I picture if somebody like ordered cocaine.
Yeah.
Or like if you take Adderall and abuse it, like that's kind of the feeling that I was like, this does not feel good. This is just jittery anxiety. Like it was not healthy. I would stay away from anything that claims to be a fat burning pill. Okay. So then we wanted to kind of talk, we have it kind of broken into categories of like stuff we take or recommend when we're feeling under the weather. Like if you feel a cold coming on, or if it's like the time of year when everybody's kids are getting sick at school, we have that as a category. And then we can go into like supplements that we do for specific protocols. So generally when people are kind of feeling under the weather, these are the ones that I personally ramp up. And again, some of these are water soluble, meaning if you overdo it, you're just going to pee or poop it out. It's not really a problem. Some of them are fat soluble. So if you suspect you might already have an excess of these things, like blood work is the only way you're going to know. But the things that I personally take when feeling under the weather, I take liposomal glutathione, which is it's an antioxidant, right? Yeah. It supports mitochondrial and cellular health. So I will take that because I've heard that gets depleted when your body is stressed and run down. It tastes gross if you buy it plain. It's like a liquid. So there's a brand that you can buy on Amazon that is like mint lemon flavor. That one I like. It's just a little squirt bottle. I will boost up on my D and K, vitamin D and K. Again, vitamin D is a fat soluble vitamin, meaning you can overdo it. Most people are deficient in it because we just don't spend as much time outside. So that's actually one of those that I take all the time in winter when I'm not spending as much time outside, but I take more if I'm starting to feel sick. Vitamin C, which you cannot overdo, you will just get diarrhea. I take a lot of vitamin C if I'm feeling sick. And then zinc and elderberry and echinacea. I've taken those in the past, but those aren't as regular in my personal routine. Like I know they have a lot of zinc, elderberry, like natural supplements for kids if they start like cough syrups that are made with elderberry and zinc if kids start to feel sick. So those are ones I've taken in the past, but like D, C, and glutathione are my 3 main ones. What about you, Jill?
So I also ramp those up when I'm sick, everything you listed, other than zinc, but I also take all of them regularly. So we'll talk about like maintenance, but I take a DK every day. I take a C every day. I take glutathione every day. You mentioned the liposomal. I use the brand Quicksilver Scientific, which I think.
Oh, that's the one I use too.
Okay.
I just like the flavor better than the other ones I've tried.
Yes. That's the one I've always gone with. And it's funny, when I used it, like I've been using it for a long time, but back when I used it earlier, it was like unflavored and it was fine. I'm like, I don't know why we had to add these flavors in, but yeah, that one's a great brand. And do you keep yours in the fridge? I feel like I was told to keep mine in the fridge. Okay, good.
I do keep it in the fridge. Yeah.
Yeah. So I keep mine in the fridge, but yeah, so I take those all the time. And then same zinc, elderberry, I'll take certain, like maybe peppermint tea or something with honey in it. I try to use, like, we always buy local honey and have it. And I think that's beneficial in terms of your immune system to have it local to where you live. So I always have that, and I'll add that to tea. Sometimes if I'm really sick, I will actually just take a teaspoon of it or a tablespoon of it in the morning and at night, if I need it.
I have local honey in my tea right now that I'm drinking. But same, peppermint tea is a go-to for me. Ginger tea. So I don't even buy ginger tea. I'll buy the ginger root and I'll use like a carrot scraper and I'll shave fresh ginger. And I like the taste of ginger. So like I'll chew it when I get to the bottom of my tea. But I'll just do ginger, a squirt of lemon juice and honey and just add the hot water to it and let the ginger seep like that. And ginger is supposed to be good for especially stomach upset. Like I will talk to you guys about this ad nauseum, but I've always had like IBS and stomach issues. Way better now because I've done some protocols to fix my gut lining. But that's always helped if I have an upset stomach or bloat or anything, the ginger tea.
Yeah, love that. Same. I actually, peppermint tea is like a pretty regular staple for me, honestly, just because when I drink tea, it's the one I prefer. I just like it. I don't know. But yeah, same. I'll drink a lot of extra tea too when I'm sick. So I think that's great. And then do you want to talk protocols? So in terms of, like I'm trying to think who went through, I feel like you probably went through a protocol more recently than I did, but you did yours more for like your gut, right? Overall, that was really your focus as well as your.
Yeah. So there's a couple different issues, I guess, that I started to compile all at once. And I think the root cause of it was my gut dysfunction. So I did a lot of blood tests. I did a GI map, which was basically a stool sample with it, where they look at your gut bacteria. And I had a gut overgrowth of a couple different things. And I had a viral thing going on in there, which explains a lot. Now, I want to put a disclaimer on this. People can have those types of symptoms from all different root causes. I know that was the root cause of mine because I got these tests done, and we can order these tests for clients. But mine rooted, I think, at the fact that I was on antibiotics daily as a child for years because I got kidney infections really frequently. So I think that really had a big impact on my gut lining and my gut dysfunction. And now people know better about antibiotics. And even my brother went to the urgent care recently. They actually gave him probiotics with his antibiotic pack to say, hey, when you're done this, start this because it's going to have issues. But that, and then on top of that, now as an adult, having new kids, not sleeping enough and being overly stressed out led to worse gut dysfunction. So basically I ended up in this place. I did an anti-inflammatory protocol, meaning whole food, Mediterranean diet, no gluten, dairy, added sugar, added oils other than like olive oil, all whole foods, no alcohol, no caffeine, no added sugar, no added artificial sweeteners for 30 days. But I ended up extending the no dairy, no gluten for probably 60 days. Along with that, I took some supplements to add to the deficiencies that I saw in my blood work. So I took a lot of magnesium. I took, what did I take at the time? Magnesium SRT. I took L-glutamine. I also drank like an organic aloe juice every morning with an apple cider vinegar every morning to help my gut naturally produce more stomach acid. I would drink a lot of dandelion and licorice root tea. Those are supposed to support in like gut health and stress management. A lot of my issues, I think, are being high strung type A person and needing to slow down. So I think that was most, and then I took like Espelardi. I took a probiotic once I ridded myself of all these things to kind of repopulate the good gut bacteria. But again, this is a very specific protocol because I knew exactly which bacteria I was lacking in and overabundant in. But I took all of that stuff. I also think I took like an organ supplement or like a collagen type supplement and some sort of liver support at the time. So like a milk thistle, there's some other things in that. But yeah, I took all of that, and with a very, very disciplined diet, when I started to reintroduce foods again, like I was at the point where I looked pregnant if I ate black beans, and I love beans, but it was just my gut was not processing stuff right for a couple of years. Once I started reintroducing stuff back in after that 60-day protocol, I can eat all of the things now with no sensitivities, no issues, no bloat. So it was really like a matter of healing myself from the inside out. And then, okay, sorry, I'm still going. A second protocol I did, and this wasn't like a full protocol like that, but I had gestational diabetes with my second child. After tracking with the doctors and all of my stuff and taking my glucose readings every day and all of that, we figured out that it was actually stress-induced high blood sugar. So when I got less sleep, even if I had ice cream the night before, if I got more sleep on those nights, my blood sugar would lower into more normal ranges. It was still high, but if I was stressed or didn't get enough sleep, it shot through the roof. So for my gestational diabetes, after I had the baby, so I wasn't interacting supplements with being pregnant, I started taking berberine as a supplement along with adding things like guided meditation and more sleep habits and less caffeine to try to fix the root problem. But the berberine can help for the acute fix of the short-term fix of the high blood sugar.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like, what did they come out and start saying about berberine was that it was nature's Ozempic? Did you ever hear that when people were talking about that?
I have heard that, yeah, just in terms of the way that it helps your insulin sensitivity. Now, if you take certain doses of it, it can cause gut issues. So that was kind of annoying for me because it's like I had these two issues side by side. And if I took too much berberine, I started to feel the gut stuff come back where I would have like runny things, you know? So I probably only took that for a few months. And then my blood sugar's still a little bit high, which is annoying. It's only my fasted numbers. My daily numbers after meals are totally fine, but it's totally stress related. And I don't take the berberine anymore. But I've naturally lowered my blood sugar quite a bit in the last couple of years. So that's where I'm at now. I don't use it anymore.
Which is awesome. And this is like probably kind of off topic, but do you still take your blood sugar regularly?
No, but I should. I take it sometimes if I don't get a lot of sleep a couple days in a row to be like, oh, how much am I impacting my body here? Yeah, I should take it more on the days that I'm actually feeling good. But yeah, no, I don't need to take it as regularly anymore.
Okay. That's good. That was a long journey of the blood sugar madness.
Oh yeah, well, and my doctors were so confused because they're having me test all the time. And they're like, what the heck? Her body's responding to food fine. And I'm like, yeah, I eat really well. But my fasted number would be high every single day. So they looked into this thing called dawn phenomenon, where basically like it spikes too early at like 2 or 3 a.m. when you're still sleeping and it shouldn't spike yet. Based on me waking up in the middle of the night and having to take blood numbers, like it wasn't that. So yeah, it just seems like a stress induced thing. When I have coffee, it goes higher. So lots of behavioral things that are looking me in the face saying I need to slow down and check myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And then when I went through my protocol, I knew that my sleep and my stress were kind of the root of everything. But I think it's so tough because, that's the root problem. But then when it spirals into all of these other things and you're like, okay, I'm bloated all the time, but I think my thyroid's off. My cycle's not regular, right? Like that's kind of the place I was in. And I'm like, where the heck do you start first? And you always want to start with assuming that like a lot of protocols will start with like liver detox, right? And just make sure that's like working efficiently and doing what it needs to do. But really you have to get your gut in check. And even like thyroid and mood and all of those other variables can stem from your gut. So it's like, let's get your gut right first. And, with your gut, there can be, there are supplements by the brand Microbiome Labs. And I'll have to look up the exact one. Maybe I can do it while we're on here. But it was one that I took for a long time. Honestly, I should still be taking it. But one of the functional practitioners that I worked with suggested it forever, long-term, take it every day because people who are very high stress type A personalities, that tends to impact your gut lining. So this was to help like restore and maintain like a strong, healthy gut barrier. And that's the one that I'm supposed to be taking every day that I don't currently, but we'll pretend that's in my maintenance stack. But that was one of the things that I learned early on of just really like the impact of your gut on every other part of your health. And that's where I started with my protocol. So
And
when I was
stress and lack of sleep impact that majorly. Like there's a ton of research about brain fog and depression and anxiety and mental health issues being linked to poor gut health from chronic stress. I wish I remembered his name. There's a guy who is like an ex Navy SEAL, who he now like works with a pharmacy to come up with a compound. He sells vitamins basically that are magnesium and L-theanine and all these things that help you slow down, specifically because the what are they called? Provide the first responders experience so many issues with like suicide and depression and all this stuff after having chronic stress for years on end. And it was like they just fixed their sleep, and then their guts started healing, and then their brain started healing. So it's pretty cool, the research of like how your whole body works together. It's as one. It's not one system or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I actually just looked this up really quick while you were saying that, but there was a book that I read called The Mind-Gut Connection, and it is a really, really great book specifically about this topic and just how it's so much deeper than just your digestion. But it literally says on the cover how the hidden conversation within our bodies impacts our mood, our choices, and our overall health. And it talks about just healing the gut, balancing your microbiome. And, like it's not about weight loss, but having these like, gut issues, or just it comes down to, when you're healing your gut, giving it all of the nutrients that it's not getting, right? With like poor diet, stress, sleep, under eating, all of that. And obviously, once you do that, that's going to impact all of the other areas of health and your life. So obviously it's the
and taking away a lot of the stressors that you can control. So I think a lot of people want a Band-Aid and they're like, well, what supplement should I take? Meanwhile, drinking alcohol or self-medicating with things. And it's like, yeah, all those things are really messing with it underneath. So you also need to remove those things if you want any of what we're saying to be effective.
Yeah. And actually, in full transparency, I currently take Adderall. I don't take it every day, but this has been a many years long battle. I actually came off of it for a year and a half and crept back on. And it's something I don't want to be on. My doctor doesn't even want me to be on it, but there are other supplements you can take for focus. Like I've tried taking Lion's Mane. I've tried other brands. I've tried the Jocko brand. I've tried Alpha Brain, right? Those are some of the ones on the market that I think are great, but it's a gut issue, right? When it comes down to that. So I obviously have some things that I need to address, and it's definitely like a crutch that's hard for me to pull away from, especially because actually I mentioned being a caffeine junkie for a long time, and I'm not anymore. I had half of a coffee today, and I was like, wow, great day to record a podcast, because I am just like zinging all over. But I love that I'm affected by caffeine in that way, and I don't feel the dependence on it anymore. But I have a dependence on Adderall. And the reason I stopped caffeine is because I can't have both at the same time. So I just replaced one vice with another, but we're working on it, progress. But yeah, that all stems from the gut too, in terms of any of those like brain or mood disorders. All of that has to be addressed first. So I also went through
anxiety stuff too. Do you want to,
oh yeah, that's all.
I have some
from the gut.
I have some additional supplements that I took when I started to experience like postpartum depression and anxiety, which was totally, I guess I thought it was new to me. And then I talked to my husband about like, I think I would go through these cycles where I'm like, I need to go to the doctor. And he's like, yeah, you've been saying this for months. And I'm like, but I feel better tomorrow. Like the next day, I'm like, no, I don't need to go to the doctor. I'm fine. And then I'm like, I think it's postpartum depression, because this is just like not normal. And I have anxiety, and it's tough for me to focus at work, which is not normal for me. Like usually I'm pretty diligent. Brain fog, like all these mental health issues, which I never really dealt with, or so I thought. And Brett's like, yeah, you've been dealing with this for like 3 or 4 years. Like you need to go to the doctor. During that time, I took ashwagandha and rhodiola for a little bit for like stress and cortisol management to lower stress levels. There's also supplements. There's a couple of different brands, but like Court Ease is one of them that you can take that are a combo of these different things. But ashwagandha and rhodiola, magnesium. My doctor actually told me, if you're taking, which I don't take melatonin, she told me, hey, for any clients, let them know you can actually have a serotonin overdose if you take ashwagandha and melatonin at the same time. So anybody listening, do not play around with multiple things like that at the same time. But I took ashwagandha and rhodiola and magnesium for a while, and that helped. And And then my my counselor, my therapist said she recommended like a B complex. So I took that for a little bit. And then eventually I had tried a couple of years ago, tried CBD oil. And I felt like that like slows down my fast brain a little bit. But eventually I went off of all of this stuff and microdose psilocybin for like 4 months. And now I've been off of it since June and I'm still feeling really good and normal. But those are all different things that I tried when I'm like, okay, I don't know what's happening, but I'm like, my brain is nonstop and I can't slow it down and it doesn't feel good.
And I'm glad you brought that up. I had like two things I wanted to comment on with that. So one, I also, when I was off of Adderall, microdose psilocybin, but it was more for my focus and to replace the Adderall. So it was something that I couldn't take every day because it just doesn't work that way in terms of sensitivity. I would take it every like 3 days probably. So I would take it. And then on the days off, I would take, just like general like lion's mane drops, or I was testing and playing with all of those other focus supplements. And it was a journey to do all of that without caffeine. It was tough, but also there is a very direct correlation, which this is not what this episode is about, but there's a very direct correlation with my lack of sleep and not having enough parasympathetic inputs incorporated in my day-to-day life and the way that I can show up and focus at work. So I know now that if I'm having a hard time focusing, I'm like, okay, got to get to bed earlier. I need to get off of like Bravo reruns and go outside and do some fucking cartwheels, like I need to go do some other things. So I think that's important to note too. And then the other thing I wanted to comment on that you mentioned was ashwagandha and rhodiola are adaptogens. So I recommend those a lot of times for menopausal women in terms of like stress, because, they're always coming with the high stress, cortisol talk and things like that. Adaptogens are great because whether you have high cortisol, low cortisol, whatever the issue is, it just meets you where you're at and does what you need it to do. So it lowers if it needs to be lower and it raises if it needs to be raises. It adapts. That's what it's designed to do. So those are herbal and they're great. Now she mentioned Cordy's, and there's another one by the same brand new ethics called Adrena Health. And Adrena Health is to help increase your cortisol if you have like a lower than normal reading in the morning, for example, which is pretty common that I see with just high strung women. Adrena Health helps bring it up, and then Cordy's helps bring it down. But you don't want to just willy nilly take a supplement like that. Like the adaptogens are okay, but you can't willy nilly take these other supplements and say my cortisol is high, I need Cordy's, and it's like whoa. Because if you're too far progressed and you're lowering cortisol that's low, and you're already in a further stage of adrenal fatigue, you're asking for trouble, and you're going to feel really, really awful. So it's important to get and really for any supplement, right? Like we're throwing these out there as like, hey, these are the things that we've taken and these are the reasons that we've seen them beneficial for, but we're by no means saying, hey, please go take all of these and suggesting these. Like talk to your doctor. Labs are really important, right? But that really goes for any supplement. Now, of course, like magnesium, sure, go take that. That's great. Vitamin C, right? Those things. But it's really important to consult with a professional, obviously.
That's a great point. So like, when our clients ask us what supplement, like, oh, I think I have a cortisol issue. Oh, I think I have a thyroid issue. I think I have this. I think I have that. Before recommending any protocol like this, we are bringing them through the Whole Foods thing that I just talked about. Okay, let's cut out alcohol and caffeine. Okay, let's improve your sleep and add yoga or meditation every day. All right,
let's one vegetable per day.
Let's load up on vegetables and fruits and real foods, and let's cut out processed foods for a month and see what happens. 99% of the time, their symptoms go away before we ever have to implement some of these things. If their symptoms do not go away, then we order labs to verify what the cause is before we're ever recommending these things. So again, we're sharing this because a lot of people have been like, well, what supplements do you take? What fix this? What fix that? And it's like, everything is so nuanced. We are not throwing this stuff at people. And the behavioral piece is always first. Okay. So then do you have any more in terms of protocols, or now I think is the part most people want to hear, which is like, what do we take regularly?
Yeah, you took a lot of similar ones. So I took a lot of like magnesium. 5-HTP is one that I took. I was introduced to during my protocols, and I still take to this day, just for really, really great to wind down for my type A personality at the end of the day, and also to kind of promote like restful sleep. And it's one of my favorite supplements, actually. I really, really love that one. And then I always, or when I went through that, I was taking more. There are things called binders that help with detoxing. I don't know if you mentioned those or not, right?
I took those too, but I don't think that I mentioned it.
Yeah.
I took that at the beginning before I then refed, like while we were trying to wipe out the overgrowth in my gut, before we then refed and repopulated with whole foods and probiotics.
Exactly. So that's what I was going to say, is that's usually how those gut protocol works, is it's like, okay, let's pull all the bad stuff out. But just like an antibiotic, when you're wiping stuff out, there's good bacteria and there's bad, and we need to promote the good bacteria. So once you kind of wipe everything out, then you're using supplements like digestive enzymes and pre and probiotics and all of those things to help repopulate the healthy gut bacteria. And then once we've pulled all the bad stuff out, put the good stuff back in, now it's time to lock in that healthy gut barrier so that we don't have things passing through the barrier that shouldn't. That's what's going to trigger all the other issues. And that's kind of like the third step in a gut protocol. So those are the very similar supplements that we both went through. And then the only other thing that I went through additionally in my protocols was my cortisol rhythm was extremely dysregulated. I was low pretty much from the second I woke, opened my eyeballs, and then it skyrocketed at night, which is like literally
backwards.
Could be worst case scenario. So I had to do a pretty intense reset initially. Now, I did an intense reset initially with those supplements that we talked about for cortisol, but I also was getting 12 hours of sleep and doing very minimal activity and yoga every single day, meditation every single day, and doing tons of parasympathetic inputs and, getting sun in the morning, using red light therapy, using all of those other things that I also consider supplements, right, to some capacity, to help promote a healthier circadian rhythm, get my sleep back in check, and then obviously help with my cortisol rhythm that goes in line with your circadian rhythm. So I think those are the only other things that I really did in addition.
And 5-HTP, I just Googled this to verify because I thought it's similar. 5-HTP also produces serotonin. So 5-HTP can be converted to melatonin, which is why it helps with you feeling calm before sleep or whatever. But again, it's another one of those serotonin like uppers. So just be cautious of combining any of these things if you are choosing to do this stuff on your own. Again, all these things we just recommended are for specific health protocols, for specific symptoms we were experiencing. None of these, I want to be very clear that none of these things are for weight loss, because I think sometimes people see a clip on TikTok and say, oh, cortisol is the reason I have belly fat. And then they skip all the facts, the facts about calories in, calories out, and just improving their metabolism through adding muscle and eating well. None of these things make us lose weight faster. Like both of us did not do these protocols for physique reasons whatsoever. And I think we need to make that very clear.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if it's like, people talk about, I have hypothyroid, but my doctor won't put me on medicine and I can't lose weight. And it's like, okay, that's fine. But you have hypothyroid. Even if you go on medication, the weight's not just going to fall off of you. Just throwing that out. Now, thyroid is tied to metabolism. It controls your metabolism, but it's not the end all be all, right? You can't there's a lot of factors.
There's a lot of factors that we can manipulate and see results on people with hypothyroidism, people with PCOS. Like we have tons of clients like that don't have any issues when they're controlling all the factors in a strategic way.
Yeah. And actually speaking of PCOS, there are specific supplements that we will recommend based on labs and all of the other factors for somebody like that, or somebody who's menopausal, or somebody who is Hashimoto's and autoimmune, right? So those are all very different combinations of supplements from a general standpoint, and then also very specific to the client's labs. I wanted to mention really quick, a couple of the brands that I like, and then we'll talk because those are where my maintenance supplements typically come from. And then we'll kind of go through our maintenance. I know that we have a lot of overlap between the two of us, but New Ethics is probably one of my favorite supplement lines in existence. And I have a code that I use with them, but I don't know, it might be in the episode description, but I don't even care if you use it. It's just a very good, high quality brand. I like Legion for more my protein type of supplements. And then we use a website called FullScript and Practitioner Depot for our labs and our supplements for ourselves and for clients. And those have just a plethora of really great brands. Ones you can also find on Amazon, but I know people are really weird about buying those on Amazon unless it's from a specific vendor and seller. But some of those supplements are brands are Metagenics, Cellcore, Integrative Therapeutics. Now Foods is one that's very low cost, and I like them because they're very minimal, straight to the point ingredients. I mentioned Quicksilver Scientific earlier. Pure Encapsulations is another one, and then Metagenics is another one that I really like that I take for my magnesium are Metagenics. So those are the ones that I tend to focus on. And something like Integrative Therapeutics, it is $60, sometimes a little more for the fish oil that I use, but it is so high quality and it has the EPA DHA ratio that I prefer to have for myself. And looking back, I used to buy my fish oil at Costco and I'm like, dear God, like what a waste of money. It was just very low quality. So you do learn that as you go. And, you know, if you're taking something and making that effort, that's fine. But being mindful that it's still like a get what you pay for type of situation. And you'll want to look for some type of quality control within the brand, something that's reputable or something that has third-party testing so that, because just so you know, supplements are not FDA regulated, right? So I could come out and say, I'm going to make the best pre-workout that ever existed and put whatever I want on the label, and it could not have
Doesn't
any
matter
in the product because it's not regulated. So that's really important to know and understand also about supplements. And that's
so all I do
the accuracy too.
Yeah, I don't know as much about it as Jill does in terms of like the quality of each. Like I'll look at the dosing of specific ingredients in a multivitamin, stuff like that. I will look for methylfolate instead of folic acid in my multivitamin, stuff like that. But I'll usually just Google. I buy a lot of stuff at Costco or on Amazon or whatever, but I'll just Google the brand and ask, are they third party tested? Because then at least I know I am getting for what it tells me is in the ingredients.
Yes.
Another thing to look out for, which this is more of those like GNC type products, you won't see this as much in normal vitamins, but like if the label says energy blend or heart health matrix or something blend, like that. Yeah. If it says that, they have zero standards for
blend. Yeah.
Right. If it says that on the label, you can kind of bet that it's not going to have the effective ingredient dose in whatever that thing is. So it might be really great ingredients under that list of adaptogens, but if it doesn't tell you the amounts of each thing, I am always skeptical.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not just going to take your word for it and oh, this looks like it'll be good. Yeah, I want to see exactly how much of each ingredient is in there. And there's great stuff at Costco. That's not like yours.
Yeah.
Costco's number one fan. I'm not dissing them at all. But the one that I was using was very low quality. So you do have to just like research.
Just Google it and yeah. Okay, so yeah, maintenance. And I think my list is quite a bit smaller than Jill's. First, before we talk about the maintenance list, we want to talk about number one is fruits and veggies, berries, greens, things that naturally have a lot of micronutrients and fiber. Protein, most of our protein is coming from meat and lentils, and I'll snack on edamame. Like our stuff is coming from whole foods primarily. A lot of bone broth and fermented foods for gut health. So like I will snack on kimchi and sauerkraut and add apple cider vinegar to things with the mother in it. I will heat up bone broth and I'll use that as my base when I make soups. So all of those things are the base. Now in terms of pill supplements, both of us, I don't think anybody in the fitness space at all would say some sort of protein supplement and some sort of creatine monohydrate supplement. Those two things are like non-negotiables. Creatine will make you maybe gain 2 or 3 pounds in water retention, but it's intramuscular water retention. So, right. So you are not going to look puffy. You're not going to look bloated. It is inside of your muscles, but it allows your cells to retain more water so that it can fire off more ATP energy. So everybody who lifts used to take it to say, yeah, I can pump out one more rep or I can lift a little heavier. That is true. It will allow you to achieve muscle building effects, which can help you with fat loss long term. But now there's also so much research about the benefits for cognitive and heart health. So like my grandfather died from Parkinson's. In his last 5-10 years of life, his doctors were having him take creatine for his brain, for his cognitive function. So I take it most of the year. I'll usually take like 3 or 4 months off just so my body gets like a break because I don't know if it's going to adapt to it as much. And then I'll start it right back up, just 5 milligrams a day. Keep it simple. You don't need to like follow old bodybuilder tales about loading it. Nope. Just take a standard amount daily. It's great. And then other ones that I take regularly. So we've already talked about this. In the winter, I always take a DK combo. And then I take fish oil. So a EPA DHA combo we already talked about. I take magnesium regularly. I take, is it pronounced glycinate or glycinate?
Glycinate, yeah.
Glycinate. I'll take glycinate before bed, and or if I'm constipated, I'll take citrate in the morning. But right now what I'm taking, I literally just found it at my dad's house, but I feel like it's working and he hasn't used it in a while. I'm taking a supplement called Calm, and it's just mad glycinate.
Popular right now.
Mad glycinate with lavender. That's it. I hate the way it tastes going down because I don't like the lavender, but I feel that it has been helpful in my sleep. And then I just take a multivitamin or prenatal. And again, I look for something with methylfolate, not folic acid. Half of the population does not have the ability to break down folic acid and convert it into true folate. So folic acid is like a synthetic form of folate. Yep. I don't know if I have that gene or not. Jill knows she can't break it down. I don't know if I have that or not, but I just play it safe and I buy things that have methylfolate. And then last but not least, I take urolithin A, which is like for mitochondrial and cellular health and repair. So those are the ones I take regularly. That's it. A multi-magnesium, urolithin A, a fish oil, and then in the winter, D and K combo.
Yep. So, and with the D and K, make sure that if you're taking vitamin D, it has K in it in terms of absorption. And I think also it depends on where you live, truly. Like I live in Michigan and the amount of sunshine we see is so low compared to other areas in the country. And our like local physicians here will basically give anyone in the state that is going to the doctor in the winter, like, okay, go take some vitamin D because it's just, we all tank in the winter. Whereas somebody in California probably doesn't have that issue. That's not to say somebody can't be low on it either if they live somewhere sunny.
Same with creatine. Most people are deficient in it, but it's pretty abundant in red meat. So if you are like Mr. Steak and you love eating your red meat all the time, you probably don't need it. But again, especially we work with females, most women are not eating nearly enough to get the most out of that.
And also with creatine, that is another one that can get marketed a little crazy. And it's you just need creatine monohydrate. There doesn't need to be anything else in it. Don't fall for marketing. Just creatine monohydrate is all you need.
I buy it in bulk on Amazon.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. So same with creatine. I cycle on and off just because my lifting has been all over the place. Like for me, it was just habitual to take it immediately after my lift. So I kind of just got out of my routine when I had to take time off lifting with a procedure. But typically I will cycle on and off similar to the schedule that you mentioned. I also take a citrate and a glycinate every day. I also take my glycinate at night right before bed. Citrate I take twice a day in the morning and at night. And so like a very large portion of the population is deficient in magnesium. So there are several different types of magnesium and they all have different like benefits. Now, if you take magnesium glycinate in the morning, it doesn't mean you're going to be like falling asleep at the wheel or anything. It just helps promote sleep. But just look at like the type that you're taking in terms of like what kind of benefit you're looking for. I think citrate is really great. Like I will take extra citrate when I'm traveling just to kind of keep motility going and things like that. But for me, I'd rather take something like that than some other like artificial. I mean, I used to take laxatives. Obviously, that's like way unhealthy. So I would rather take something like that. And then in terms of, so I also take, I'm like hesitant to say this one, but I also take something called Thyro Boost Plus from New Ethics. And there are a couple of different versions of thyroid supplementation with New Ethics. And it's very important to consult with your doctor for any of these, especially if you are already on thyroid medication. There's a version on there that is helpful for general thyroid health and is very like minimal. And then there's one that's really great to combine with medication. And then there's one that's recommended by the website that can replace medication. Not up to me. That is only up to you and your doctor to decide. I take Thyro Boost Plus and it really helps with, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's and I was going from hypo to hyper in just a matter of like weeks to months. And I couldn't take medication, one, because they wouldn't even give it to me, but because of how much I was fluctuating, but I also didn't want to take it. And Thyro Boost Plus is considered the advanced thyroid support and has been used as an alternative to thyroid medication with doctor approval. I have been taking that for the last year and I cycle off of it as well. I will rotate in other thyroid supplementation. That's my primary. But my labs, I just got done Tuesday to check in on things. But since I've been taking it, my thyroid numbers have been great. Now, the answer to my great thyroid labs is not Thyroid Boost Plus. It's stress management, healthy diet, eating enough food, regular sleep, all of those things too. But it's really, really great to supplement my life, right? And it's helped keep me in check without having to rely on medication, which whole other conversation. But, something like levothyroxine or these other medications are usually prescribed based on TSH, and that doesn't help with all of the other components of thyroid health. So it's important to talk to somebody who's, I prefer to speak with functional on those topics so that they're looking at the whole picture and not just one marker for my thyroid health. So that's my hot take on that. And then for digestion and gut, I also take glutathione. I just think it has so many benefits. Honestly, it's an antioxidant. It's really, really great in terms of like cell health, DNA repair, regulating cell proliferation and death. It's really great for immune health. It's great as like a detoxifier in terms of not like weight loss detox. It actually is great for hangover if you take it the next day.
Like cellular cleanup. Cleanup.
Yeah. In terms of just general toxins in our environment that we're exposed to. So for me, I'm like, why would I not take that every day? And
which is also what antioxidants from foods do. So guys, eat a lot of colorful foods.
Right. And then I take something called Medigest, which is for digestion, but I have pretty much all of my labs tell me that I have low stomach acid, which, might be read on labs as like low vitamin D or low magnesium or low B12, but it's just because when stomach acid is low, you can't properly absorb nutrients that you're taking in. So for me, that's a very easy thing to just incorporate that I take before each meal, and help produce that stomach acid. Apple cider vinegar is also really, really great for that. And that I take, I'm really bad at it. I'm inconsistent, which I don't mind it because I feel so good in terms of digestion whenever I take apple cider vinegar in the morning. And I usually take like 1 or 2 tablespoons and dilute it in a little bit of water, but it's also really great for that. That was a trick that I learned from one of my functional practitioners that I worked with during my protocols. And then I take on and off something called daytime HPA that just helps with like from a general perspective, like supporting your HPA axis in terms of a healthy stress response. It's not like a day specific, night specific, high or low cortisol specific. It's just general like promotion of stress response, mood, sleep, anxiety, things like that. And then I think that's really it. I think I covered everything else. Creatine we talked about. I think that was it.
I have some others that I take on and off or that I've had a lot of questions about that I guess I can chime in on.
Yeah. Let's do it.
So turmeric and curcumin combo, if like feeling achy or like inflamed, which again, I don't feel as inflamed now that I've kind of fixed my gut and what was going on there. But every now and then I'll feel like achy or whatever. Usually it's if I'm lacking sleep, and I'll take turmeric.
You can also just put it on your food a lot in terms of.
Oh, true.
Yeah.
Yep. Use it as a seasoning. I will take a prebiotic on and off. The one that I like, it's called Hyperbiotics Prebiotic. Again, I'm not associated with them. I just buy it on Amazon, but it's like artichoke root and green banana fiber. So you're just getting the resistant starches that our gut bacteria likes to eat. So if you want to get resistant starches from food sources, you can actually cook and then cool your potatoes and your rice. And even if you reheat it, it's the process of cooking and then cooling it right away turns it to a resistant starch that is good for gut health. When I started doing that and incorporating this prebiotic, my regularity bowel movement wise got like
actually crazy.
Way more normal. And I don't take that all the time anymore, but I took it for a while and I really like it. So if I start to feel not regular, I'll take that again. And then a lot of people ask about CoQ10. Neither of us take it, but there's a lot of research on the benefits of it for heart health. So it seems like it's another one of those things that if you have concerns about heart health or a history of heart issues in your family or something, like I don't see why you wouldn't take it.
Yeah, it's another just antioxidant. It's a very well-known supplement. It's just not something that either of us take specifically.
Yep. So maybe what we'll do at the beginning of this episode, we can go back and insert like, hey, skip ahead to this part if you just want to hear about like general maintenance supplements, because I feel like what we just went over is more important than the whole list of protocol supplements.
The ifs, ands, and buts of everything.
Right. Like most people are deficient in vitamin D. Most people are deficient in fish oil. Most people are deficient in magnesium. Take a multivitamin that includes a lot of vitamin C. Like, I think that that's pretty standard across the board for specifically muscle building and physique goals. I would also include creatine. And if you are not hitting your protein goal naturally, which would be the goal, a protein supplement every now and then. That's it.
I actually literally just onboarded a new client this morning, and she had a supplement list, and she was like, okay, I'm on creatine, magnesium, ashwagandha, vitamin D, and fish oil. Can you let me know if I should be on anything else? So I was like,
you got it.
Good. Labs, like that's really there's nothing outside of that list that I would recommend to somebody without seeing their lab. So yeah, I hope that was helpful. We get so many supplement questions. So we were like, why not just cover what we take? People always want to know what we take, what we eat, what we do when we work out. So we figured this would be a fun one. I know we always throw out a lot of disclaimers literally to everything we say, but I think it's really important to understand the way that supplements are used, and they are not in any way, shape, or form beneficial, in my opinion, when it comes to just weight loss or the way that people treat detoxes. This is for specific health and nutrient gaps for you specifically. And the ones that we recommend to anybody, just most people have those nutrient gaps anyway. So we feel comfortable recommending them. So I hope that was helpful. Of course, if you guys ever have any questions or follow-ups to any episode, you can message us on Instagram. Those links are in the description of the episode, and we will see you guys next time.